I didn't think it would happen this fast, but here we are. In 2018, the hyperinflation in Venezuela will surpass Weimar Germany. The example we use in our books to describe the complete destruction of a currency. The example of failure of the monetary system to maintain any value. And the example of policies which fail the people. You came here for the truth, so let me unveil that for you. Today, I'm going to talk about Venezuela. I've been covering this country for years now, showing you what has happened over this period of time. And now, today, we see what was always inevitable, and that is the complete destruction of the bolivar. This is directly from the IMF's words, their own website. I'm not quoting, I'm pulling up the actual IMF document itself. When you come to this channel, you're always going to get the actual source. And if you want to read it for yourself, they're always in the description of the video. Unlike other alternative news, unlike the mainstream media who doesn't have to quote anything, they can just say it and it's official. I bring you the exact data right from the horse's mouth. I need to read through this whole paragraph at the top, so I'm going to do it very quickly, and it's very important. Otherwise, I wouldn't do something like this. Venezuela remains stuck in a profound economic and social crisis. Real GDP is projected to fall by about 18% in 2018, the third consecutive year of double-digit declines in real GDP, driven by a significant drop in oil production and widespread micro-level distortions on top of large macroeconomic imbalances. We expect the government to continue to run wide fiscal deficits, financed entirely by an expansion in base money, which will continue to fuel an acceleration of inflation as money demand continues to collapse. Now check this out. We are projecting a surge in inflation to 1,000,000% by the end of 2018 to signal that the situation in Venezuela is similar to that in Germany in 1923 or Zimbabwe in the late 2000s. This, as I mentioned in the introduction, these are the examples we use for the most extreme. We always say, you're going to have that $100 trillion note like in Zimbabwe. Or what about the wheelbarrows of money in Weimar Germany? I use the examples in my books. And now here we are today, witnessing it occurring before our very eyes. The collapse in economic activity, hyperinflation, and increasing deterioration in the provision of public goods, healthcare, electricity, water, transportation, security, as well as shortages of food at subsidized prices have resulted in large migration flows, which will lead to the intensifying spillover effects on neighboring countries. They're seeing that in Trinidad and Tobago. They are seeing that in Colombia. They're seeing that in all of the nations surrounding it, and this is not going to end very well. I assure you, we have moved into from bad to worse to whatever you call it today, chaos and pandemonium perhaps. And it's truly unfortunate what has occurred. I remember covering the hyperinflation when it was barely hyperinflation. It was under 100%, I'm certain, when I started covering it here. And today we look at this and think, well, we're almost at 1,000,000%. I mean, that is just absurd. And it happened right before our very eyes. It's not something in a history book. It's not something that is very foreign to us. It's a country that at one point was extremely wealthy. This right here is the Café con Leche Index. And this was developed by Bloomberg in order to track the current inflation, or more specifically, hyperinflation. I'll get into the description of the Café con Leche Index in a moment, but I just wanted to show you the fact that according to that, we are at 60,000% inflation in Venezuela right now. So it's going to escalate very, very rapidly. And you can see on the top left corner, 1.4 million bolivars for a coffee. Unbelievable. Well, this is their description of exactly what it is and why they're doing this. We called it the Bloomberg Café con Leche Index, and as the name would suggest, it tracks just one item, a cup of coffee. Its price has jumped to 1.4 million bolivars from 2,300 bolivars over the past 12 months, an increase of 60,000%. I remember showing those statistics. And now, in no time at all, the currency went from, terrible, just losing money. I hope that you're exchanging your currency as fast as you possibly can scenario to it's worthless. It's worthless. While the gauge isn't nearly as sophisticated as a conventional consumer price index, it has the merits too. It's tangible, tracked regularly, and given that it monitors a product consumed by Venezuelans every day, provides a unique up-close look at inflation in the country. This is something that I wanted to spend a moment to talk about, because when you look at the inflation rates that we get, whether it's US, Canada, UK, Australia, and so on, we are looking at these numbers that are fraudulent. They calculate inflation based on a basket of goods, but those goods do not add up to the price they give us. It's a fake number that they use. And you can see this very, very clearly when you look at food prices. 1.6%, I think it was the last time I checked, in the US. 1.6% food inflation year over year. I mean, I don't know where you're living, but 1.6 is essentially not increasing at all. So would you say that from last year to this year, your grocery bill hasn't increased at all? As far as, I don't know. I don't live in the US personally, but I can tell you right now, everything in Toronto has increased. Okay, let me stop ranting quickly. This is from Bloomberg. Venezuela Hyperinflation Index reaches the 1 million mark. A cup of coffee now costs 1 million bolivars in Caracas. Consider that just 2 years ago, when we launched the Bloomberg Café con Leche Index, a coffee cost 450 bolivars. Unbelievable. Just think about it. 2 years ago, we were in 2016, okay? I'm sure many of you were here in 2016 watching me as I covered this. I showed you this index long ago, as soon as I found out about it. And now, we're looking at this currency being worthless. It's truly worthless. As soon as you get it, it's going to drop in value the second you get it. And that's why people, they immediately, when they get their money, they immediately go to buy something with it. They know that by the time they can't even go home from work, they get paid, they go directly to where they need to get their food, and then they can go home because it's going to devalue by the next morning. All right. So it talks more about the details, the specifics there. This is just a chart to show you zoomed out 1.4 million, the Café con Leche Index. OPEC data confirms that Venezuelan oil production reached a new 30-year low of 1.5 million barrels a day in June, despite having the world's largest reserves of crude. The health of Venezuela's oil sector is the key to its survival, as the country earns, look at this, 96% of its revenue through oil sales. If oil is at a low price, they're in trouble. Other countries that are major exporters of oil, they are also in trouble. Recently, we've seen the price of oil increasing, but that's coming at the same time where their production is declining. That's not good. They're not going to see that additional revenue coming in. And of course, it's going to put more pressure on the whole situation. It's truly unfortunate what has occurred. And then we have this. Consumer prices have risen 46,000% this year, according to the opposition-run legislature, which began publishing its own inflation data in 2017 because the nation's central bank had halted the release of basic economic data. It's bad when the government won't even put out the stats anymore. And that's something that we need to be keeping close attention on. Whatever they're saying, don't look here, it's not important. That's usually the case, and why this, in fact, should be focused on. Now, I'm going to end it there. I just wanted to note this. I think it's very, very important to follow what happens in Venezuela. And as I've told you before, this is just one example. Look at the case where we see Argentina, even Brazil to a lesser degree. Look at Turkey, for example. Look at all around the world today. We are witnessing currencies being devalued at a rapid rate. What are they being devalued against? Well, you can just pick one. Okay, let's say they're being devalued against the euro and maybe the Japanese yen. But I want to tell you something else. Currency is being devalued against real goods, okay? Real stuff. How much it costs to buy a loaf of bread, how much for those eggs, how much for this and that. I want to know money that buys something. I want to give it basically a sense of what it's worth. It's not worth anything as a piece of paper. It simply means what I can buy with it. And when we talk about currencies over the years, there is no doubt in my mind that they are losing value year after year after year. And the longer we withhold our investing, the longer we choose to simply be bystanders and stay in debt, as most people are, then we will not be able to take advantage of what's happening, or at least survive. So that's something I want to leave you with, and I'm going to end it there. No more ranting. If you found the video informative, please give me a thumbs up. Let's just say it's unfortunate for the people of Venezuela. If you found this video informative, you're really going to find these two books even more informative. This is the financial education you were not taught in schools. They keep it from you on purpose. They don't want you to know the truth. So I took everything I've learned over the years, really spelled it out very simply. If you know about the financial system or you do not, these books are very easy to read, but it still gets into all the details. I just removed all the jargon. Okay, so you're going to get everything from the foundation and history, the asset classes, how to make money, how to be self-sufficient, and so much more. Check them out. Link is in the description. And if you prefer the audiobook version, you can get that at themoneygps.com.